Hello everyone, and welcome to the best podcast ever made on this planet Earth, Wonka Watch. We're an unofficial podcast about the Wonka-verse from two people who didn't really think they cared about Willy Wonka until they learned about the prequel, and it felt like their life ended a little bit and destroyed their world. So yeah, that's fun.
And you may think, how much is there to say about Wonka? The most forgettable and yet most memorable franchise. More than you would ever believe.
Who's that? Who's that character? I don't know who she is.
The spirit of Wonka took over my body and spoke through me. I'm going to be channeling a lot throughout this.
Join us as we count down to the day of the Wonka Rapture, March 2023.
AKA the release of the Willy Wonka prequel.
Yeah. How do you start a Willy Wonka podcast? That's a question I didn't ask myself. Like, I knew I started one, but like, how do you start one? You know?
Why, I think with a song.
Come with me, and you'll be in the world
Suit beyond imagination.
Elaine, take a look. It's in a book. It's reading Rainbow. That's how the song goes in my head. I don't know the words.
That was all sorts of wrong.
We should probably say who we are. That would be helpful.
Right.
Hello. My name is Felicia, someone deeply affected by Wonka, and I'm here to share my truth and my struggle on this podcast today.
It's really brave of you to be here.
Thank you. Who are you? How'd you get in my house?
We're on Omegle right now, and I just popped in your group chat. My name's Elaine, and Felicia is the one who brought this upon me, who brought the Wonka mania into my life, and now here I am to talk all things Willy Wonka.
Yes. So I guess we have to segue on kind of how this happened. You know, how does
one get into Willy Wonka? Like, who gets so passionate about it that they make a podcast?
I don't really know. I think I will start with my Wonka origin story, which is how we got here today. Because I don't want people to think like right now Wonka is kind of a big trend, and not to be pretentious, but I was a Wonka early adopter. I was talking about Wonka months ago when I was very depressed and needed an outlet to get rid of my anger. And one day I called my mother and I said, did you see the news of who they're considering to put up for the Wonka? It's Timothée Chalamet or Tom Holland. And I was genuinely so offended. I'd never been so offended by anything in my life. And looking back, it was really more a reflection on me in the moment than it was about the movie, because I don't really care that much. Like, and now I'm at peace with it. I'm fine with the Timothée Chalamet casting.
This is my last tread to sanity.
I know, literally. It was like,
time.
I think it was like March. This was a long time ago. And like, I've been very passionate about Wonka ever since. And for the next week, the only thing I did was I talked to people around me. I was like, did you see the fucking Wonka thing? Did you see the fucking Wonka thing? It's Tom Holland or Timothée Chalamet. Have you ever seen two men more white bread, more normal? They're both too normal. They're too normal. Tom Holland, if they had actually casted Tom Holland, I would be a lot more angry.
Same.
Timothée Chalamet, he's fine. He's a little New Jersey for Wonka, but I guess that's okay. Like, we can work with that. We can work with a New Jersey Wonka. But Tom Holland is so like, I like him. I like the man, but he is one of the most neutral people I've ever seen in my life, you know?
Yes, yeah.
And Timothée Chalamet, I think I was like, he's like too much of a heartthrob, and it's kind of weird. And I was personally affronted that they didn't take a more like weird, goofy route, and they were just like getting into Timothée Chalamet for the clicks, you know? This is a decision guided by money and nothing else. I was genuinely so upset. So I at that point, it kind of faded into the background for a really long time. And I wasn't, Wonka.
Did you get less depressed
after the Wonka
left you? Yeah. After that, did it like shock your system?
Well, no, my parents got divorced. So I had bigger problems than Wonka over the summer. I had bigger problems than Wonka. There were a lot bigger things in my life going
bigger
on.
things than Wonka.
Bigger things than Wonka. And now the situation has resolved itself. I'm perfectly happy. And Wonka is back on the forefront, babes. So no, I Wonka still had a part in my brain space. And every once in a while I think, oh God, fucking Wonka. But it wasn't at the front of my brain. And then I went to the podcast convention that me and Elaine met at. We have a weird meeting story. We'll get into that.
It's weird.
She was my mom's friend and I took her. I kidnapped her and I put her in the back of my car.
We know the best way to make friends is through your mom.
I'm a cool girl who only makes friends through my mother. But yeah, so a few days before I went to the conference, this video surfaced. This beautiful, beautiful video surfaced. The first Wonka content we've had in a long time of Timothée Chalamet bouncing along on a little truck and singing a little ditty. And I said, it's a fucking musical. It's a musical. Hey world, Wonka's a musical? Are you fucking kidding me? It's a musical? Because like Timothée Chalamet isn't a singer, and they keep trying to make Timothée Chalamet or Timothée Chalamet happen. They're really trying to make it happen because he's playing Bob Dylan soon too, and like they're putting him in singing lessons. Like he's not a singer. He's not a singer. Like they're trying to put this boy, mount him on a plaque, and make him sing like a trout. It's not happening. It's not something that's happening. So, and like I don't even have an issue as it like ideologically. It's just there's something about it that takes up brain space in my brain that I don't want it to. You know? So yeah, I was seeing that video, I was sending it to my friends, and then I was at She Podcast Live and I saw Elaine and I said, she looks like somebody who cares about Wonka. So I told her, Did you hear about the Timothée Chalamet Wonka? Did you hear about the singing man on the little bus?
I said, no, I hadn't. Also, you saw me in your hotel room because I was staying with you.
Yes.
I think it's a vital part.
Yeah, so let's
we were there 3 feet away from each other.
Elaine could not escape me. She was stuck under my influence for a pure weekend. She could not escape me. I was always there. And I think that's kind of what happened. I feel like she may have gotten Stockholmed a little bit into this because I kept talking about Wonka. I didn't stop.
No,
this wasn't like a one conversation thing. This was my weekend.
We got like we got a free notebook at the conference, and by like the end of day one, you had halfway filled that entire thing. And looking through it was like looking through like the Charles Manson letters. Like it just kept going with like you would see underlines.
Yeah, all about Wonka. So basically, my mother is a podcaster. Shout out your empty nest coach. She's very good and very different tone from what we do here. Very different tone.
Very different. Very positive, uplifting.
Very positive, uplifting.
Will actually change your life for the better.
Yeah, this is not that. This will have no effect on your life.
Nothing at all. We're not changing the world.
Nothing will happen to you from this.
Feminism might be taking a hit right now, actually. I don't know.
We are the problem, is what we're learning. We are the problem. We would right now, if this was 30 years, not 30 years, this was 300 years ago, we'd be going to an asylum for hysteria. Yeah. It was like the 90s. Am I right?
Okay. Ew. Oh God, 30 years ago was the 90s? Oh, I think an important distinction we need to note is that I am 8 years older than Felicia.
Yeah, I'm 18.
Close to a decade. You were born in the aughts. I was born in a different millennia.
03, baby.
Oh, that's disgusting.
Yeah, I know.
That's so disgusting.
And I think it's fun because we get two different perspectives on Wonka.
Yeah, the young person and the younger person.
Yes.
Yeah. you like that. So do you feel Wonka, have you explained your Wonka? Is there more to your mania you would like to share?
Yeah, I mean, I have some history with Wonka, but I think that kind of tells us how we got here. Okay. You're my mom's friend who was staying in the hotel room, and I was just like, Wonka? And you were like, Wonka.
Yeah, so from my perspective, okay, I'm staying in the hotel room with you. We're having a blast. I've heard mention of you many times, and we've like kind of like waved to each other through your mom's Zoom camera. But, I never talked to you. And then like, I think after the first conversation, I was like, oh boy, we almost have the same brain conversation things.
Yeah.
I could talk like you're the kind of person I could talk to solely in onomatopoeias and you would understand what's happening.
And we did.
Which is usually a good vibe.
And we did.
Indeed.
It was interesting because whenever my mom would leave the room, we would both regress to about age 8 and not know how to function if she wasn't there. We'd be like, where's our mother? like little Victorian children who are abandoned on the side of a train. We're like, where's our mother? She's gone and we don't know where to go.
We start making our own plays. We don't know what else to do. We spent legit, like I needed to send a resume to somewhere, but instead, like I just spiraled into madness and spent 30 minutes legit on a reel for my Instagram revealing my toy cow's name.
Yeah, and I was trying to compose a whole kazoo song for it. It was bad.
And then your mom came and we were like, anyway.
Back to business. Clearly, we weren't doing anything.
Back to business. And anyway, so yeah, so like, you know, I'm around Felicia. She keeps talking about Willy Wonka, and I too get offended, but I don't know why I'm so offended by Willy Wonka prequel. Yeah. And the more she talks, the more I'm like, that totally makes sense. And I kind of love petty rage.
Yeah.
Like it fuels me. I had anger issues growing up where I just bottled up everything. Mm-hmm. So I think in a way, this is me in an unhealthy way taking on some of that anger, but at least it's Willy Wonka, you know, like it's not internalized. I'm getting it out.
I use Willy Wonka as an outlet for all of my problems in life.
Oh yeah. I'm forgetting.
he's a solve for all my wounds. And the way he's a solve is that I use him as a punching bag, essentially.
It's so honestly, like if we get really rough on here, like even to Timothy Chalamet, like listen here, Timothy, it's not you, it's truly me.
It's us
and my rickety mental health.
We need to be in therapy.
Wagon on the road of life. Well, we are. I am one level up. I have a psychiatrist.
Oh my god, I actually have an appointment with a psychiatrist next week.
Oh my god.
So if this podcast stops suddenly, it's because we got help.
And we don't need to do this anymore.
We don't need this as an outlet. We don't need this. So
right. Anyway, so she sucked me in. It sounded so cool. You need to know also, I mean, I don't know if I should hold off on this until we get into our why do we want to create a podcast with our John Lee Dumas. Should I hold on that?
No, we can talk about it. I think it's important to talk about it.
Okay. Something that's very important for everyone to know is that I already have 2 podcasts.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And I'm an indie podcaster. And what that means is I do everything myself. Mm-hmm. I talk, I edit me talking, I promote myself talking. It's a very self-loathing process, but I like it for some reason. And most people would tell you, you know, if you were like, oh, you have 2 indie podcasts you're doing, they would be like, you're insane. Mm-hmm. Okay. I now have a 3rd podcast.
Yeah.
And the fact that the 3rd one is about Willy fucking Wonka.
Yeah, no, it's a disease.
It's insane. And I figured it truly is a disease, because when I was explaining it to my friends, they were like, LOL, we figured you would have a 3rd one. I was like, you did? This is not like healthy.
I think that's almost the worst part is when I told my friends I was making a podcast about Willy Wonka, they were just like, okay. Like it's so on brand for me that it was like nothing. No, like, oh, are you okay, Felicia? No. They were just like, yep.
My friends were like, oh, this is so you. I'm like, what is it? I have 3 and by the way, my podcasts are a mental health comedy podcast, a drinking podcast, and now Willy Wonka. Like we're not even in like I have a true crime one, a news one. No, they're all weird. So I'm just like, I can't believe I've said yes to this. I'm excited, don't get me wrong, but I'm kind of still in shock that I have decided.
Yeah. I was
my
shocked
schedule
that
says
you agreed.
I was shocked. I was very excited. Oh, and we both were afraid to ask each other.
Yeah, it was like 2 middle schoolers asking each other out on a dance, and then my mom had to mediate.
I know. It was your mom's like, you guys stop it. You both want to be on the podcast. I was like, is that true?
I was like, do you really want to be on it with me?
Oh my gosh, do you really? And then we went to shake hands, and this bitch sticks out the same hand.
Okay.
Have you ever done a business deal? What was that about?
Dude,
both hands, same.
I didn't pay attention. Do you think I
was the one drinking. What was that about?
Yeah, that's how we got here. So hopefully that incredibly all over the place explanation helped somewhat to explain how we got here. So now we're going to move on to what this actual podcast is, which
what is it about?
We're moving on to our is it eponymous? Is that what it's called? What's the name of the thing? I'm going to say it's that segment, Wonka Watch, where I review every new piece of Wonka news between each episode.
It's like Neighborhood Watch, but
I know
Wonka Watch.
So much about Wonka that Timothy Chalamet is legitimately haunting my dreams. Every single night for the past 4 days, he has showed up in some capacity, and I interact with him maybe for 3 seconds. I say maybe 3 words to him and he goes, ah ha ha, and then he leaves. Like that's it. But he's always there. And I keep waking up. Wonka is everywhere for me right now, Elaine.
That's really not okay.
And I know I did this to myself because I'm
Mhm.
the research girl. I'm the little research girl on this podcast.
Oh yeah, I do nothing. I show up.
Yeah. So
I was like, this is the third podcast my mental health can't take.
no, and I was like, I need to be the research person. I like knowing information, and I know
Mhm.
so much about Wonka.
And
It's
I like learning it from other people who've already done the work for
yeah.
me.
Okay, so
So,
on this week's Wonka Watch, we're
oh my
not dipping
gosh.
into all the news because next week we're going to be talking about every single thing we know about the movie Wonka so far because there's so much
Mm.
and we don't have time to unpack it today. But I wanted to give us a little taste of what's going on in the world of Wonka. So number one,
Ooh.
they're filming at this place called the Rivoli Ballroom, which is like a 1950s.
Ravioli.
Yeah. So yeah, they were filming at the Rivoli Ballroom in Brockley. It is a 1950s ballroom in London that is the only one that has stepped up with its period finishings. It appeared in Captain America, I think one of those, and it's here. So that leaves us the question: is Wonka set in the 1950s? Because it doesn't look like it from the outfit. So that's going to be something we're going to have to unpack. When is this movie set? Episode to come, because we have no clue. Nothing makes sense. Number two, I did read the the title. Timothy Chalamet felt like he was desecrating history at Abbey Road for Wonka. So it was in one of those articles. It was from this article from Time. That was one of those, those articles that they do with celebrities, those interviews where they like weirdly describe them like they're in fan fiction. They're like,
Yes.
he orders black coffee and a mozzarella soup, which he says he has been craving. It's not an easy thing to come by in London, where he's been in rehearsals for Wonka, an original movie musical that will serve as the prequel of sorts to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, following the titular chocolatier as a young man. He just spent a weekend recording music for the film at Abbey Road. I felt out of my league, he says of working in that legendary space. Like I was desecrating history. But working on this project has been good for him. Here's actually a piece of information we have about Wonka. This is legitimate. He said,
Okay.
it's not mining the darker emotions in life, he says. It's a celebration of being off-center and of being okay. And of being okay with the weirder parts of yourself that don't quite fit in. So that's Timothy Chalamet's take on Wonka. So all my dreams of a horror Wonka have been shattered, but
Oh man.
we can still imagine it. And the last bit of Wonka news is kind of Wonka adjacent.
Ooh,
We're in the
wow.
Dollverse, which is that Netflix spent a lot of money to buy the rights to every Roald Dahl piece of content ever produced. So any Roald Dahl content after Wonka, presumably from Netflix, unless there's a deal to make a Wonka sequel. I'm doubting it, but honestly, also they might, So they have the rights to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Netflix does. So they're currently working on an animated show based on it, which I assume is the Taika Waititi helmed Oompa Loompa show that I've read about. So Taika Waititi's doing a show about.
What the hell is that?
I don't know. It just said that he's doing a show about Oompa Loompas, and I'm like, animated? Is that? Is he doing
Like,
that?
I honestly
How
feel
much did you
like
pay, Taika?
we will talk about this.
Oh, when it comes
later,
out.
But I just feel like anything Oompa Loompa related, I'm like, ooh, watch your step, because
Literally, do you know about the NAACP situation in the 60s? Like, it was bad, guys. Like, I want to, let's say Wonka is a deeply problematic piece of media. If you look into it, there's a lot of problems. Also with Roald Dahl, lots of issues. I read an article today and was like, oh my God, but it's okay. We read with a critical eye. And that's where we're coming from here.
I'm very excited.
But so the interesting thing is with the deal, they hope to create a unique universe that will extend to publishing, gaming, live theater, and more. It's looking into interactive entertainment, including video games, as part of a push to wider variety of programming, which implies that there will be a Dahl cinematic universe, which is a choice. Because does that imply like the Fantastic Mr. Fox and like Willy Wonka are just like hanging out?
Oh, shoe biscuits.
And I saw a lot of like opinion articles like, this is the death of media. They're combining the dolls. The dolls are getting together. People have a lot of opinions. Like a lot of 20-year-old opinion writers in New York have a lot of opinions about this. That is the Wonka news. The juicier stuff is next episode. I actually uncovered some things I've not seen people talking about. I found key clues into what kind of plot line we're looking at here. I found articles. I found set photos, Elaine. So stay tuned. Hear all about it. Read all about it. Next episode.
Wonka Watch.
Okay, so Elaine, before you started this podcast, what was your exposure to Wonka? You know, like remove the Wonka 2023 prequel, take that out.
Okay.
Wonka in the real world. How did you feel, Elaine?
My main Wonka experience is the 1970s movie with Gene Wilder, a legend. And I watched it as a kid. I don't think I've seen that, honestly, in the last decade.
I've never seen it.
But which is bizarre to me. I have seen the 2005 version with Johnny Depp. Absolutely hated it. Maybe I was too old. I had a critical eye at that point, but like both versions are kind of the stuff of nightmares. I was never obsessed with it. However, I love the idea of an edible room. Like you can eat the grass and the trees. Like I was all about that. When I was a kid, I used to have a dream that I could be in a room full of tuna salad and swim and eat in it. So like that
Elaine,
was kind of my
fuck? Hey,
yeah.
What?
No, we can brush over that.
No,
so
what, tuna salad?
I fucking love tuna salad.
What was the texture of the tuna salad? How viscous was this tuna salad? Because that is important.
Like the lightly shredded kind. Lightly shredded.
And you could
but like with mayonnaise. I wanted to swim and eat in it. Like a good Subway tuna salad sandwich with like potato chips on the side. I emotionally ate a lot as a child. So that was
I only eat Wawa tuna salad exclusively. You know? I only eat gas station tuna.
I was like, that's possibly the worst form of tuna.
It's so good, Elaine.
I won't bash a Wawa.
Wawa's to me are one of the fanciest restaurants I've ever eaten in.
So down here we have Quick Trip. And that is the place to get your chicken rods. An ambiguous chicken cylindrical object that we eat. Anyway, yeah. So overall, I've never read the book.
Yeah.
And I'm honestly like my feelings on Willy Wonka before all of this were like medium to mild dislike. It might still be there. So.
Honestly, I have a complicated relationship with Wonka. So for me, I don't really care. Believe it or not, despite everything you've heard on this podcast, I don't care that much about Wonka. I really don't. I do in theory, but not in practice. And when I think about Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, I think about seeing a middle school theater production of the musical. That I saw when I think was around 8 or 9, and I was like, hey mother, do you remember where I saw this, to see like if I could get any other background info? And she said, no, we never went to see Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And then I went on an internet deep dive for like 4 hours trying to find where did I see this. No internet record, Elaine. I may have dreamed up this Wonka musical. I know I definitely saw it, but signs are pointing to that I didn't, and I don't know who to trust anymore.
I have a really dumb question. Who's Roald Dahl? Is that the author?
Yes. Oh God.
I was like, is that the movie production? Like what's going on?
So you said Roald Dahl, who is not a person.
I could. So what's his name?
His name is Roald Dahl.
Roald?
Yes.
His name is Roald Dahl.
Yeah.
His name is Roald Dahl.
Yeah, how are you picturing that spelled?
ROLLED space DOLL.
Okay, that, but make it British. It's RO.
Roland Dahl. Wait, I did that so right. I think it's important. Honestly, I think it's important for people to know that he is the author. Clearly, people are not as in depth.
So for me, I read Charlie and the Chocolate Factory for my children's literature class in college. So I have like a pretty recent. I read the book in an afternoon, and I did no critical thinking about it. I just kind of showed up to class and left. And I wrote my essays about other books, so we didn't really get that far into it. But I have had some recent Roald Dahl exposure. He's the guy who did Matilda. He did James and the Giant Peach, Fantastic Mr. Fox, The BFG, George's Marvelous Medicine, which was my personal favorite.
This has just totally opened my world. I just thought it was like a some guy one-hit wonder. He was like, I have a creepy thought in my head, published, gonna go back to my
this
cave.
man's a big deal. He's a big deal.
Roald Dahl.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for clearing that up. That'll probably be helpful for me as the co-host of Wonka Watch tonight.
We really should have started with the fact that you don't know who Roald Dahl is.
I don't know who Roald Dahl is. Oh God. Oh no.
I think that really flavors this podcast well to show people.
That really goes to show
who's the research person here.
who has no idea what's going on.
Okay. So since we met at a podcasting conference, we want to start this podcast off right. So at the podcast, with our tickets, we were gifted a journal. Or a journal, some might say.
A journal. And it's nice. It's a faux leather pleather, perhaps.
Had a price tag of $49.99 on the back, which is insane.
A little shocking because it's not,
it's okay.
It's mediocre. Now, I will say the texture, pretty nice. The color, a bit wild.
It's a little much.
Orange. Dusty orange.
We were given the podcast journal.
Why am I petting it right now?
I'm like holding it. I'm like gripping on this with a death grip. The podcast journal, idea to launch in 50 days, by John Lee Dumas, commonly known as the Willy Wonka of podcasts.
Clearly. It's in his LinkedIn all the way.
You put that in his LinkedIn.
John Lee Dumas. But anyway, yeah, so we kind of went throughout the exercises because we're like, wow, we need to be professional about this. We need to like get our heads on straight.
We need to get our heads on straight.
So, we did a couple. We did a couple of the things. We answered some of them, and it was really insightful for me.
Was it really?
No. I mean, yes.
Okay. So I think one of the first ones we wanted to discuss here at this board meeting for Wonka is who is the one perfect listener for this podcast, our avatar, if you will, the last airbender of the earth.
Yes.
Thank you. So they wanted us to write out a description of the one individual who could have a life-changing experience. And I did cross out life-changing here, and I just said, write out the description of one individual who could have an experience because they listened to your podcast. Because we're changing no lives here. We're changing no lives here, Elaine. And I wanted that to be clear to John Lee Dumas in his special book.
So who did you put as the perfect avatar? Which the avatar is like the ideal listener, the ideal person who this would impact. So you're supposed to create this little like person, and then the idea is you speak to them. It helps you guide where the podcast will go.
So the one individual who I think could have an experience because they listen to our podcast is somebody who orders those lavender honey lattes and gets way too competitive with the 9-year-olds at the indoor golf carts at the fancy arcades.
That's so yeah. I feel
it's that kind of petty rage that we're looking for and perceived pretentiousness.
Yes.
I've never had a lavender honey latte, but I look like the type. I'm aware.
I have, and I really like them. So.
Do you get competitive with the 9-year-olds at the golf carts? Not the golf carts, the go-karts.
No comment. Wow.
Yeah, so who did you think is the ideal listener for this podcast, Elaine?
Yeah, so there were kind of 2 exercises on this, so I kind of like blended them. Is that okay?
Yes,
okay, so one of them was like, who's the one person that could have this experience, and the other one is like break down who this person would be. So I kind of have 2 answers. I hope that's okay. So my like ideal, who it was, it's an age range between 20 and 70. So they're one of those people where you look at them, you're not quite sure what their age is, and honestly, who knows? Yeah. So this person but the avatar is ageless. What do they like?
They like Wonka's for everybody. Wonka's for everybody, Elaine.
Wonka's for everybody.
Wonka's for everybody.
Wow.
Wonka's for everybody. Look under your chairs. It's Wonka. Wonka, Wonka, Wonka. Everybody gets a Wonka. Did you just shake your boobs?
What else am I supposed to do for Wonka?
I'll do anything for you, Wonka.
Check out these honkas, Wonkas. Okay, anyway. Wonka, Wonka.
Do you think when Wonka gets in his car and he goes and hits the horn, it goes Wonka, Wonka?
I think we should. Anyway, so I think I hope so, indeed. So this avatar who's ageless, they love claymation, big fan of Phantom of the Opera, and they love the smell of dusty books.
Agreed.
The 5 specific places my avatar might hang out. This was legit one of the questions.
Yes, it was. It was like
I had to sit and think about this.
Bars. It was like, are you trying to pick these people up, John Lee? It felt like kind of like a targeting strategy. It was really weird.
Oh, and also to further confirm how different we are from John Lee Dumas, his avatar's name is Jimmy.
Yeah.
Jimmy.
Yeah, his name was Jimmy, and
Anyway,
he was
so
the most generic man I've ever read about in my life. You know, these people, we
so
don't know who
ours
they are who listen to our podcast, but they are characters, that's for sure.
you have a personality if you're listening. You're welcome. Anyway, the 5 places my avatar might hang out would be the museum, thrift
Agreed.
stores, raves, therapist office, and World Trade Market.
God, I mean, I really feel like we just kind of described each other by accident. I don't go to raves, but
Oh,
like
whoops.
everything else is very. It's
Oh, very important. Another question that John Lee Dumas
Mhm.
was like, you should think about it. Relationship status. And I said complicated.
yeah.
Um,
He also asked, what are their biggest struggles? And the answer for me was many, many.
see, mine was mental health, student debt, and social security.
Again, yes, very.
Yeah, many.
What was the biggest dreams and aspirations, Elaine?
To own a chocolate factory. They're looking for the golden ticket. They want to leave this reality and escapism.
I'm shifting to the Wonka-verse.
I
Imagine
love
if
it.
people on TikTok were shifting into the Wonka-verse and they were like, I got sucked up by the chocolate tube.
I'm really scared to see the Willy Wonka cosplay to come out of this. Like, I think some of
I
it'll be
shifted
good,
to the
but most of it'll
Wonka-verse,
probably
and
scare
Willy
me.
Wonka actually took my phone and he smashed it to pieces and I couldn't come back. And I was stuck there and he said, "You're in my chocolate prison now, bitch." And I was like, what the fuck? What the fuck, Willy Wonka? And like looking back, I really should have expected it from all the media. It makes sense.
Oh, and then so going back to the write out a description for the one individual who this could have a life-changing experience for, I chose, and Felicia, I think you'll agree with me. I think the person who needs to listen to this the most is Timothy Chalamet.
Is this an intervention for him?
He is like, I mean, think about it. He's had to get in the head of Willy Wonka to play this character. So he's probably in the same level of despair that we are. He's just getting to make a shit ton of money.
I might. Oh God, I wish I were him.
Don't you all?
God, I wish
mean,
I knew this much about Wonka, and I was getting money for it.
I know.
If
And
Wonka
he probably
was
doesn't have
paying
to know
be
his
in my head. I honestly
God.
think I know more about Wonka than he does, and I think
Most
we will.
likely.
We will
And
know
that's
more
probably
about
for
Wonka.
the best.
I know. I mean, I don't think I could give a convincing performance if I was
Right.
burdened by the knowledge I have.
No. But I feel like, you know, it's a solo thing. How many people can you talk to that had to be like this in depth in Willy Wonka? So I feel
Yeah.
like we're the support group he needs
That's
because we know
true.
too much, and then he can be like, "Oh wow, I'm not alone. They're crazier than me."
That's
Blessed
true.
be.
Timothy
So
Chalamet,
you're
if
welcome,
you're listening,
Timothy.
this is a safe space.
This is
If
a
we
safe
insult
space
you,
for
it's purely professional.
professional criticism.
Professional criticism.
We have a
very
right.
Roger Ebert style hot takes
Yes.
that are like a
so
little mean, but done with love. With our luck, Timothy Chalamet will end up on this stupid fucking podcast, and we'll have to
I
deal with the
honestly,
repercussions.
you
of
know,
that.
I did actually answer the day one questions.
Mhm.
They were like, "Why do I want to create a podcast?" And I said, "I don't. I already have 2 podcasts." They're like, and then the next question is, "Why do I really want to create a podcast?" And I said, "I really don't. It's probably a form of self-abuse." Oh yeah, at one point he's like, what's your commitment to podcasting 1 through 10? I said 10 because I have 3 fucking podcasts. My expectations for my podcast could be described as Felicia does all the hard work and all I do is show up. I expect to earn millions from this podcast as reparation for the mental damage I will suffer. I expect hot men to be lining up out the door waiting for me because we all know that Willy Wonka is the aphrodisiac of podcasts.
I just turned to another page that said, "I want the look of and feel of my logo to be," and I just wrote bad. Yeah, so there's a page in the John Lee Dumas book where he wants you to make actual contact with people who would listen to your podcast. And in this case, I just talked to my friends because I can't be bothered.
Same.
I did think about calling my grandfather, and then I didn't. Now that's podcasting, baby. That's commitment to the arts. So the first question he asked, and I think this might be fun for you to answer, Elaine, as well. How do you feel, Elaine? How do you feel about the topic Wonka in your life?
I feel scared and curious.
Yeah, I feel like it is a psychic force gripping tight on my brainstem, pulling me back to the Wonka sauce every time I stray too far. And I asked my friend, and they said it exists, it's fun, but does it serve a purpose? No. Another great way to describe this podcast, actually.
Yes. Yep. I have two responses for these. So I have my roommate, and then I have my friend Laura, who was drunk at a party and sent me voice memo responses to this. So my roommate said on the topic of Wonka, it's in the background. I don't really ever think about it, which bless
Accurate.
her sanity.
God, I wish I was her.
Right. My drunk friend goes, it's complicated. When I was a child, Willy Wonka was okay. I liked it fine, but I didn't rewatch it over and over again like it did with other movies. As an adult, I like it more. I like Willy Wonka, the movie. The topic is more annoying. What is there to talk about at a party? And they're giving her weird. Oh, and she's at a party doing this voice memo, and everyone is giving her weird looks. So off to a great start for our podcast.
Okay, great that the first thing they ask is, I did get a lot of, how much is there to talk about Willy Wonka? More than you would ever believe. Our concern was not how do we feel the time, it's how do we get it all in before the movie releases. We have so many thoughts, so many episode topics. My God, you have no idea. We have our first year done. Nothing. We don't have to come up with any more ideas.
Truly, we're set.
Yeah, we literally just have to show up at this point. And I do get a daily Wonka digest delivered to my phone that tells me all the Wonka news. And but the problem is sometimes it's a slow week, and they'll give me like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory musical production in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Wow, as parents. And I'm like, oh God. So if there's a really slow week and I start talking about Charlie and the Chocolate Factory middle school musical productions, just know it's a little slow on the Wonka news. Okay, it's a little slow.
The next one, Felicia, tell me, ideally, where would you like to be when it comes to Willy Wonka?
I think for me, I'd really like to just be at peace. This has been a big source of conflict for me in my life over the past few years. And I'm sort of using this podcast as kind of a collective therapy, a collective experience for me to speak my truth, speak my Wonka truth.
I think that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
A lot of people, when I read it, I was like, I didn't quite understand what the question was asking. And a lot of my friends, two of my friends were like, I don't get it either.
Yeah, so I ended up, my one friend just said, in that fun little bubble room.
I'm going to take that as my answer.
Yeah, it's a good answer. It's a really good answer.
My roommate said, for where would you like to be when it comes to Willy Wonka? She went on a couch. And then my drunk friend went at home and not watching it because I hate it.
She really flipped from the last one. I thought she said she liked it.
You know, I think the more she thought about it, the more she's like, I don't fucking know.
Yeah. What's your biggest struggle when it comes to Wonka, Elaine?
I think right now it's this podcast.
I know. Yeah.
Obsession with it.
Mine is
I don't care. Yeah. And yet I do. It's very weird.
I feel the same way. It's like I will be sitting down, just going about my day, and passively in the back of my head, it's just like Wonka, Wonka, Wonka. The voices never leave me, Elaine.
Oh, no.
I did right here. More like what isn't, am I right? I'll be here all week, ladies and gentlemen. It's more just like, how did we get here? How did we get in the point that this is our universe and this is our world? And Wonka is a film that is coming out in 2023. And I'm not really that upset, despite everything you heard. I'm just kind of baffled, and I kind of want to explore what happened. How did we get here?
Yeah. My friend's biggest struggle. Roommate said the tunnel scene in the 70s version, which
common complaint.
To understand. And then drunk friend said, biggest struggle is that it's framed like a children's movie when it is 100% a horror movie. It also is about capitalism, class shit, and other shit that's not child appropriate. Just because there's candy, it doesn't mean it's a fucking children's movie.
Yeah. She seems to have a lot of opinions about Wonka, actually.
Yeah, this is what happens. I realize when I talk to people about this, they suddenly realize, wait, I have strong opinions about Willy Wonka.
I don't really care about Wonka. How much do you have to talk about Wonka? And then they think about it for 5 more seconds, and they bring out some of the hottest takes you've ever heard in your life.
Man, yep. Bring that up at Thanksgiving, am I right?
All right, finally. What for you, Elaine, would be most helpful for you in terms of approaching, learning more, or even mastering Wonka?
So I thought a lot about self-care for this one. And so I was like, taking it in bite-sized pieces, which clearly has not happened, and breathing exercises.
Yeah. Why don't we do one right now? Everybody okay. Breathe in. And out. Wonka. All right, thank you everyone for joining us in that activity. Hopefully that has removed some stress from your life and exercised the Wonka demons, taking up little space in your brain. So I said, I kind of took the ultimate approach, which is learning everything and I mean everything. I know so much, and we haven't even begun. And I will be the number one Wonka scholar by the end of this podcast. The only one. My friend did say, I'm really not sure what she was typing here. This was, I got her answer at like 10 o'clock at night, but she lives in Arizona, so this was like 7 p.m. fully. She texted me, a Timothy Chalamet Wonka impression answering my questions, a Wonka AI, if you will. And I don't really know what that means.
What?
I don't really know what she's
The fact that you have baffled us.
We have the Wonka podcast, and you made us step in our tracks, Liesel.
Oh my gosh. My drunk friend
Yes.
goes, I don't want to master Willy Wonka because that sounds like I'm going to fuck him. So absolutely not. He's freaky. But then she did go on. And she's like, honestly, it'd be helpful for someone to actually acknowledge this is weird. Like, why do we think this is okay for kids? Why are there so many remakes?
And we will be getting to that.
We will for, she wanted for people to stop talking about Wonka like as this magical thing and actually figure out why this shit is happening, like your podcast. So it did come back around. We're okay with the podcast. It was just
she went on a journey. All right. So to close out this insane podcast, we're going to do what we do at the end of every episode, which is our personal Wonka predictions, which is we are every episode going to be making predictions about the Wonka movie and seeing what comes true. We can do predictions about anything related to the rollout, merchandise, basically anything related to Wonka 2023 that may happen in the future. So I'm gonna come out here with my strongest prediction. I swear they will put an instrumental cover of Imagination in the trailer, of Pure Imagination. It's gonna be like, it's gonna start with some bells. It's gonna be like dong 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 dong. And then Timothy Chalamet is going to be like running over a hill, and then it goes full orchestral, and then some 6-year-old man is going to be like, I have never cried before until I saw this little man run up that hill with that instrumental Pure Imagination cover. And also, I'm just going to say the words Wonka Tumblr sexy man. It's going to happen. I don't think this is a debate. So
cool. My prediction is that I'm pretty sure there's going to be a love interest he meets on the way to the Oompa Loompas who isn't like other girls and wears pants and loves adventures.
Oh,
yeah.
You're very good at that's probably correct. We do have an episode planned in the future that Elaine wrote that is one of the funniest things I've ever read in my life, which is Wonka capable of love, familial and romantic? And I was like, damn, Elaine. Holy shit.
Remember when we were talking about projecting?
Oh my god. Those are kind of our initial predictions about Wonka. I also think they may have like Pure Imagination be a lullaby his mother sang him.
Oh yeah, that's a good prediction. Yeah. I foresee that.
It's a potential. Are you holding a lighter?
Yeah, I guess it's a lullaby. It's a bop. It's actually kind of a creepy song.
Imagine
anyway,
if you were singing a lullaby for your baby and they pulled a lighter out of their pocket. Starts swaying.
It's Wonka. Anything could happen.
In the Wonka-verse, anything's possible.
Babies with fire.
Did have a theory that they were gonna. I thought for a fun like alternate Wonka, they could do like a Benjamin Button Wonka. We could like have a little Benjamin Button Wonka going on.
Jesus,
I know. I just have too many ideas. I'm an ideas man. What can I say?
Anyway, this is why we're gonna definitely have enough episodes.
Yeah,
I know you were so worried. I know when you started this podcast.
Like, how could they keep talking?
Timothy Chalamet. Timothy Chalamet, it's okay. I know you're crying to yourself right now as you listen to this.
Me and Elaine both don't say no to each other, and we just keep going. This podcast episode was supposed to be 30 minutes, and it has been a full hour.
A full hour. So we're gonna end it now.
Yeah, this is gonna be a lot of editing for me, but that's all right. I'm gonna cut out some of the
my problem.
Who was that?
If I ever have the unfortunate situation of being cursed and turned into a puppet, that will be my laugh. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Thank you. How do we end this? Thank you, everybody, for closing out and listening to this wonderful episode of Wonka Watch. And just remember, despite everything we've said this episode, it's really not that important.
And make sure you keep your eyes peeled, because you never know where Wonka may be watching.
If you want to follow us, which I don't know how you would have seen this otherwise if you don't already follow us, but follow us at Wonka Watch on Instagram, TikTok, and weirdly Pinterest. You can also email us at wonkarapture@gmail.com because somehow wonkawatch.com was taken. So whoever has that, gimme. Thank you.
And these can be questions, comments, but mostly we're predicting concerns.
Yeah, we're here for concerns.
With that, we're done.
We need to stop. Thank you.
Wonka Watch.
Wonka Watch.